All right, here we go for game number two. Dinh Pham has won game one, being the top seed. He opted to go first for game one. He's looking at his hand, and he is gonna mulligan three. All right. In this one here, Clement mulligans a few, gets a hideaway, which we will probably see rise in popularity because of the power of these locations. You saw Ed really leverage the library and the North American Championships to victory. And here in this match, I mean, if you watched game one, which again is on the channel with my commentary, you will have seen Din just absolutely secure the victory with the McDuck Manners. The two-pronged attack is just too hard to deal with. So really interesting way to see the metagame develop this way towards the end of the Azritzi meta. We see a inked shark from Clement being on the play and no one drop, unfortunately. Didn't hear off the develop your brain. Glad I picked up extra copies of those, being a first chapter card for like 25 cents, just because I realized I only had 4 non-foils, and well, 4 foils and 4 non-foils. I just wanted an extra play set to play with because I don't want to play with my first chapter cards if I can avoid them, if I can avoid it. We see a turn 2 ramp though from Clement, so that's pretty good. We're also going to see the turn 2 ramp from Din, which is pretty obvious considering he inked a sail on turn 1. You don't really do that unless you have the ramping option for turn 2. And the sail is, in this scenario or in this matchup, I would think way better than the Tipo, because the 1-drop body doesn't really do much for you in comparison to the card advantage that you would get. Nonetheless, though, I think Clement's deck, which, you know, they may have cut Sisus and everything entirely from the list, both of these players, but they're probably not on too many items themselves. The nice thing about the Tipo and Grammatala combination is it is enough to sing together the Pirate's Life, which is pretty good. You're going to see the Popsicle come down, which is what Clement took off. And I hope I'm saying his name correctly, but please in the comments correct me if I'm wrong. The Popsicle come in off of the Grammatala Scry. I believe that's the card that they took. They do have the Scar in hand, which is a good thing to help challenge into that location, but it is still several turns away, even if they do have more ramping options. Oh, they're going to go even more negative on card advantage? No, not opting. Okay, they... Wait, what? They double inked, right? But I think... I mean, it doesn't end up mattering, but shouldn't the ink off the Tipo go unexerted? I mean, I don't think it matters, but if I may have missed it. That's what it looked like to me. They put it in unexerted, but it doesn't end up mattering. In comes the Super Goof, and that gets good value for Din here in the mirror because he's able to take out those Tipos very efficiently. Of course, the Grammatala can easily just take out the Goofy to prevent it from challenging again and getting another 2 lore. So you're kind of strapped for options. Oh yeah, okay, he has enough to play the Scar now, so that's why he Tipo ramped. That makes sense. That's good. The Scar very efficient, right? Take out the Goofy, ready it up, and then use it to take out the McDuck Manor. But Clement is on not too many cards in hand, maybe just 1, maybe 2. Din here going to be able to hardcast the How Far I'll Go, willing to play the slower game and just pass off that, it looks like. So heads up play from Clement to get that ramp through to clean up the board. Of course, now having the developed board, he is at risk of seeing a Be Prepared come in, but he's probably not too worried about that. Just going to get as much advantage as he can at this point in terms of lore gain. Yep, just quest that with everything. That's 4 lore, puts him up to 7. He's got a Tamatoa, and I don't know what the other card is in hand. He's definitely... Is it? It's not another Grammatala, is it? But it's a sail. He's going to opt to keep the sail, which is very interesting. Not play it out to scry and use up the rest of his ink. Din does see the item and the hero for the card draw. Is he going to play another develop? Yep, looks that way. He's got the B prep for the next turn. So I wonder if Clement is just debating now, like, I'm in a really tough spot here because I probably don't want to deploy this Tamatoa. So I'm going to have to do some other things in the turn that doesn't widen my board to leave me susceptible to the B prep. He draws a Visions. That's a really good top deck. I've talked about this card so much. Guys, if it's a card that's going to end up going up in value, like Visions, again, for my Yu-Gi-Oh players, I keep saying it every time it comes up, like Pot of Prosperity at 4, right? Like, and instead of banishing 6 from a critical extra deck, you just pay 2 ink. The card is insane. Just dig for an answer. It's part of the reason why Sapphire is just so good. And pairing it with Ruby, it's why you've seen this deck have success here today. You know, turn these low cost scry actions into lore gain with the Maui Shark. Very interesting that we see an inked Fishbone Quill there, making its way back into Ruby Sapphire. So again, you've seen how this deck kind of came full circle, right? We were playing Fishbone last meta. At the beginning of this meta, it got phased out quite quickly, and now it's back in the deck for some players. Yeah, there's the Be Prepared as expected, and Clement knew that, so he played very efficiently, I think, to play around it to a certain degree. Dinh still has a number of cards in hand. Again, these players would have seen each other's deck lists ahead of that. So Clement probably knows that it's very viable to leave the Hiram on the board, knowing that there's not too many items, that are in Dinh's deck to actually use with that Hiram. The double manners come down, but this is a very different situation than game 1 because Dinh is not the proactive player, the progressive player. He's behind in lore. Clement is at 12. So there is time to be had to take out these manners, but you know, they're still a big threat. And of course, the thing with locations being paired with Ruby is how many Be Prepareds, right? How many cards are in his hand? Clement's trying to calculate the odds, you know, how wide can I go to deal with these locations with the risk of the Be Prepared coming through and wiping out my board and I have to start from scratch again. This is where those Vitalospheres, those Maui Hero to Alls can really come in handy, but again, you're overextending because you have to deal with these manners. And I think Clement inked a Hideaway, which I imagine is just a one of in the deck. Okay, he's going to pop the Popsicle. He's going to opt to quest here to get back the Popsicle and dig for more answers. He gets a Brawl, which doesn't help him in this scenario. He's counting up his ink here. Ink the Brawl. And pass, I believe, because he has no more interactions for the turn. Then starts off. Is he going to start off with the Visions here? Yep. You play Visions, I play Visions. He gains his 4 Lore 2 off of the double McDuck Manor. And this is a little rough, right? Because even on board, Clement only has 8 attacking power, which is 1 less than he needs to take out the McDuck Manor. At least one of their McDuck Manors. Again, he has some time. He's probably on a 2-turn clock. The scary part is, again, you can see Dinh's hand here. It's just like Pirate's Life, Super Goof, another Manor. There's so many ways to instantaneously gain lore. Again, something we've talked about a number of times on the channel, these non-questing sources of lore, it's really something that acts as an unknown in this game. For a game that is fairly simple, right? When you compare it to like Magic, there is no interaction during your opponent's turn, there is no counter spells, etc. For Yu-Gi-Oh, right? There's no traps, etc. So what's on your board, you're like, okay, this is your questing power, this is what I have to deal with. But when you surprise your opponent with Super Goof out of nowhere, gain 2 lore, oh, I wasn't calculating for that. Like now you have to add another layer of consideration of like, what else do I need to play around? And you see that. I mean, the Rapunzel is that card from chapter 1. Dinh a little happy to see what he top decked there in the Let It Go. Feeling very confident now. Again, these players would have seen each other's deck list, so maybe he knows Clement's only on 1 Scar, and that's his only rush character. And if that's true, he's already used it. So these manners are going to live for another little bit. And Clement is trying to dig into his deck here. That's the desperation that he's experiencing right now. He drew a Develop, so with that last ink, he might just keep searching. But I wonder if there's a case to be made that he attempts to race. But again, the issue is Din can just claw back the lore with the Pirate's Life, which we know he's playing at least 3, because from game 1 he revealed 2 and then a top deck third if the game would have went an extra turn. Okay, we see those manners live another turn, and Din goes to 12. Those manners still untouched. I don't know what Clement is potentially looking for. Here we see it develop into a B prep, and those manners are going to live for yet another turn. Who needs Maui Shark? I have an alternative win condition in these McDuck manners. And we know he has a third one in his hand. Will we see more location heavy removal in the future? He's going to play a third Tamatoa. Holy moly. The desperation is real. What could he possibly be looking for? I mean, he can ink and then play the Hiram too, but I think this game is already over because we know what's in Din's hand. And Clement must know that Din is sitting on a bunch of waiting to proc interaction for lore gain. Pirate's Life, Super Goose, at least one copy of each. I mean, he hasn't been playing anything else, right? Because Din could have played a slower game and not forced removal, because Clement did not have enough power on board to even take out a McDuck Manor, but Din didn't even care. So yeah, he does go for the hero play here, and now the Pirate's Life start to come in. Din ends up taking the lore advantage, and he, with that Pirate's Life, it just puts him further and further ahead. A hard cast for 6. He's counting up his opponent's ink, but I don't think it matters because he can't get enough items on the board to proc a Lucky Dime for game. And again, Din would know his deck list, so he would know how many items he's on. We haven't seen any ice blocks or any large amount of items here. That might have been a brawl coming through. And the bane of Ruby Sapphire, right? Locations. If you play Ruby Sapphire, locations is a way that you are able to beat them. And it doesn't seem like Clement is on any locations himself, and so that's the edge that Din has. We talked about Ed having the advantage in the North American DLC for teching his deck so heavily against Red-Blue. Well, what happens when Red-Blue techs against Red-Blue? This is the outcome. So Din should feel pretty happy here because he's potentially going to go undefeated at the DLC in Melbourne. Again, he did have 3 draws in Swiss, which may or may not have been intentional. But he did have 6 2-0s, which is quite remarkable. And you can see, even on the draw, this deck, not needing a lot of draw engine or anything, just scrying your way to victory, looking for the answers as you need them. Maybe playing as little as 4 items just for Hiram, get a Popsicle, Popsicle draw 1, Hiram draw 2 off of it, and then I expect my Hiram to get banished. So, why even bother playing extra items that are just going to sit on the board and I'm not going to proc with the Hiram? So just get my draw 2. I play enough scry cards that I'm just digging for my answers, and I know what I need to do. Because I talked about this in a video. Maui Shark is an advantage engine, right? It generates you card advantage when it's able to proc its challenge and get back an action from the discard. You can use that action again to just replay, to scry more with the develop, or there's a second copy of Hideaway, by the way, which is nice. But yeah, just develop more card advantage, dig further into your deck, or just use it as ink if you want. I think Clement is counting up what has been used so far. I mean, these Tamatoas, you can see, in this deck, they're just not doing enough. There's just not enough items, really. I mean, he's just been cycling Popsicles for draws, basically. And that's a pretty expensive thing to do. You're paying 8 to just recur a Popsicle, then paying 1 for the Popsicle to get a draw 1, right? Versus a Maui Shark, which gains you a lore, scries 2, and replaces the card. That's what's so broken about this, right? Maui Shark comes in, you have 1 card in hand. If it's able to proc its challenge and get back a developer or a vision, then you turn that developer vision into a brand new card that you can choose from out of either 2 or 5. I don't think there's any calculation here that's going to save Clement this game. Clement. I don't know how. Again, I could be mispronouncing his name this whole time. I'm not sure, and I do apologize if I have been. Might be Clement, right? I don't know. It's French. I'm just used to like Clement or something. I don't know. Anyways, we see a sale come in. I think Dinh is just like, yeah, I think I have this. He's got that expression on his face like, yep, we're just working through the motions here. Yeah, there's just nothing really that Clement can do. Quest for 3, try to race. Play out the popsicle, draw a card. But Dinh goes to 20. Like, he doesn't have enough to play Lucky Dime and cast it, right? So, well, there's a Pirate's Life and a dime. So he has to take... Okay, it didn't matter. Yeah, he showed him the double super goof anyways. Oh, wow. So he could have actually won if the lore total is correct. So he quests up to 18, and if he had enough to play the Pirate's Life, he would have won? I was saying, like, last turn, I'm like, there's no way, right? There's no way that he would have enough. But all I've seen from these guys is popsicles. I haven't really seen any other items. Well, I mean, we've seen Fishbone, actually, and Lucky Dime from Clement, but no other, like, low-cost items to help ramp up that Tamatoa lore gain. But to be honest, all you're really recurring is popsicles anyways. But Dinh goes up 2-0. Let's go on to game number 3.